This, folks at home, is Bramble Underleaf.
Underhill.
Underleaf. Bramble is a 52-year-old forest gnome born and raised just outside the city of Baldur's Gate. He was brought up to be a farmer, but did get some basic education in his younger years. He lives alone since his wife passed away a decade ago, and though he keeps mostly to himself, he is a friend to plenty of animals. Bramble, for all intents and purposes, is a normal guy. Not much special about him. That is, until he is snatched up by the Nautiloid and his fate becomes intertwined with the main story of the game. This is where we get to answer an interesting question. Can you beat Baldur's Gate 3 as a normal, rational, average person? Not an adventurer, not a seasoned wizard, not the offspring of the god of murder himself, just a dude. But frankly, none of the classes in Baldur's Gate, or D&D in general really, are for normal people. That's why, for this video, I'll be using the Commoner class mod by TheWailingBard. That'll keep us from straying too far from the path of an average Joe, and will help accurately answer the question at hand. Also, check out some of their other classes and subclasses, they make some really neat stuff. But with that out of the way, I think we can hop right into things. Although before we do, I'd like to run a little experiment. Someone told me recently that likes on videos matter a lot more in the new algorithm, like in 2025. So if you could leave a like and help me see if it makes a difference, I'd appreciate it. Alright, I'm done now. Thanks, gang. Let's get into it. So we've met our character, Bramble, and he's a commoner with the farmer subclass. I might try a different one later, but that's what I'm using for the time being. Now, I don't know about you guys, but after having a little panic attack, flying through hell in an alien ship and all, I think I'd want to get the hell out of here. To do that, we first need to figure out how. I'm gonna try to abandon any preconceived notions or knowledge for this playthrough, so all we can do right now is investigate the ship. In the process, Bramble pretty quickly stumbled across Myrnath and the weird talking brain inside of his head. And nope, I would not go anywhere near that fucking thing. I know it's not about what I would do, it's about what the normal person would do, but I'm pretty sure most normal people are getting the fuck out of here. Shortly thereafter, we meet someone else, this time someone worth stopping and talking to, Lae'zel. Lae'zel may seem kinda scary, may be an unfamiliar race, but she's willing to help out, and there's no way I would turn down any kind of assistance at this point. We begin our battle together against the imps, and I just realized I forgot to tell you guys a very important aspect of this run. If at any point my whole party is killed and I'm clearly in a situation that is unwinnable by normal means, I think I'm gonna call this run a loss. I mean, I'm trying to answer the question, can you beat Baldur's Gate 3 as a normal dude? So there's gotta be an option for yes and no. So just keep that in mind as we move on, because we're gonna get caught between all sorts of rocks and hard places. Speaking of, Shadowheart is in a very hard place currently. Now, in my notes, I talked about how it would be pretty unreasonable to waste my time looking through the ship for a way to free this one specific person, but then I realized something. There are two doors past this point, one to the left and one to the right. Now, I'm no psychologist, but I did take like 3 psych and sociology classes in high school and 1 in college, so I know a little more than some people. And I can tell you pretty confidently that most people are going to choose the path on the left first. We, at least in the US of A, read books left to right, and that trains our brains to process other information left to right in a similar way. So, door on the left, door on the right, that means we're starting with the left. Also, I think it's a little closer. So, in that room, I found a strange rune thing, and Bramble himself notes that it might open up the pod. I was gonna say he shouldn't know what to do with that, but it seems like he already does. As a lowly farmer, I could use all the help I can get, so I used it to set Shadowheart free. The door to the left has been explored, so now it only makes sense to go to the other path on the right, which leads us straight to the helm. The Mind Flayer tells us to reach the transponder, which would make me feel a little torn, but Lae'zel agrees that it's the right move, and so I guess that's all I can really do. We only killed the enemies that stood in our way and made a break for the transponder. We all know the story by now, though. The Nautiloid teleports to the Sword Coast, Bramble falls out, is saved by the Emperor, and wakes up on the beach. Now, I personally have a pretty good idea of where Bramble is at and what's around, but he certainly does not. not? So we're gonna move forward with that idea in mind. What the Bramster can tell is that Shadowheart is still alive. He wakes her up and brings her along for the ride. I mean, shit, we've already been through some craziness together and we've got the same problem to solve, why not? We traveled down the beach until we found this creepy, cryptic-ass door. Sure, there could be some supplies inside, but finding a healer is definitely our top priority, and this place doesn't look very healery. We crept through some of the Nautiloid rubble, taking special care to not alert the intellect devourers, avoiding fights if possible, and then in the distance we saw something interesting. Astarion is over there and he's calling for help, but bear with me, you'd have to be pretty fucking stupid to go anywhere near that guy. A, he doesn't look injured, he doesn't sound injured, and there are no clear signs of present danger around him. And B, he has a weapon on him, so if he needed help, he would likely have that thing drawn and ready to fight. These things considered, I decided not to go near him. We did immediately after come across an injured Mind Flayer though, and like any rational person, I got rid of the threat while I could. That brought us to level 2, and Bramble got access to the old reliable ability. Not bad, not great, very, well, normal. Right on past the injured Mind Flayer, there's a big glowing thing. Well, I sure as hell would have to take a peek at it at least, and as soon as Gale's hand popped out, I'd feel pretty bad if I just left him behind. I mean, he sounds pretty polite, and unlike Astarion, he is clearly in trouble. I pulled him out of there, and we became fast friends. Again, he sounds really nice, so we'll count him among our companions. Then, off the path a little more, we find Lae'zel stuck in a trap. Now, this is where we get back to the psychology stuff a little bit, because there's a common bias that people have towards things that they experience first. Maybe it's the first person you talk to at a new school, the first meal you try at a restaurant, the first car you own. These things are special to us because they came first. To Bramble, in this very intense situation he's found himself in, Lae'zel was the first friendly face he saw, she was the first person to assist him in battle, and now she's in need of his help, and he'd likely be pretty willing to give her a hand no matter the circumstance. That is why, when we failed to trick the tieflings, I was prepared to fight and kill them over Lae'zel, because, again, she's our ally. And of course, I made her part of our team. Now, down at the beach, I decided not to mess with the door to the crypt, and now that I'm on the top side, I definitely am not going near that place. There's a bunch of people with weapons and stuff, and like I said, why on earth would there be a healer there? That leads us to follow some shouting we hear in the distance, and we come upon the Grove. It's currently under attack by some goblins, and while I don't know any of the people inside the Grove, they couldn't possibly be as bad as goblins. And hey, the Blade of Frontiers is here. We'll talk about him in a minute, but for now, we've got some fighting to do. We helped fend off the goblins, and once they were dead and gone, we made our way inside. Zevlor lets us know that we can seek out Nettie for healing, and we'll do that in a minute, but before we do, I've got a date with the Blade of Frontiers. Will is kind of a legend in the Sword Coast, a hero known for saving lives left and right, and though he isn't nearly as powerful as he once was, thanks to that dang tadpole, Bramble would be out of his ever-loving mind not to accept Will into the party. He'll be replacing Shadowheart for now, because even though as a cleric she could be a really helpful teammate, she has proven that she can't get rid of this tadpole, and that's kind of our goal right now. Lae'zel, though, is fully convinced that her people are the solution to our ailment, and I let her take charge when it came to interrogating Zoru. I would have stepped in if she was really gonna hurt him, but she just scared some information out of him. We'll turn to the Githyanki if things don't work out here, but while we're in the Grove, we need to talk to Nettie first. Although I did stop real quick to help out Arabella. I mean, she's just a kid after all. I think most people would do what they could to defend her. Then came Nettie, and while she herself wasn't able to cure us of the tadpole, she did tell us that Halsin, the head honcho of the Emerald Grove, may be able to do something for us. But of course, in video game fashion, he's not here, so we're gonna have to go find him. He has disappeared around the goblin camp, and Nettie is afraid that he's in trouble. So we either help him, or we find a different solution, and at the moment, the Githyanki are our only other lead. I guess we'll start heading towards the goblins. On the way there, we got sidetracked a lot. Starting with Edwin and his siblings, I told them I wasn't a true soul, because what the hell is even that, and they attacked. We killed them, I failed to resist Edwin's tadpole, and we moved on. On to find Scratch. I know not everyone loves animals, but I do, and Bramble does, and so he told Scratch to come find our camp if he gets the chance. We've got another person to meet though, because Will has been hunting a devil named Karlak, and there she is. Now, if Will wasn't in the party, I would have just ignored her because she looks kind of scary, but there's no chance he would let us just move on and forget about her if this was like a real situation situation. And to be honest, I also would have helped Will kill Karlach if it wasn't for the tadpoles that connected us, helping us all see that Karlach isn't the monster that Will has been tricked into thinking she is. Now, after learning that Karlach is being hunted by the infamous Blade of Frontiers, and that she has fought in the Blood War for nearly a decade, there is no universe where I'm not putting her on my team. She took Gale's place, and after that, we took a rest. That's when we met Mizora, and Will got turned into a devil. Ouch. That wasn't all for the night, because Gale told us about his magic condition, which I said I'd help him with, and then Shark confessed that she's a worshiper of Shar. Yeah, no shit. You literally are wearing Shar's symbol front and center on your chest. It took me a while to realize that that's what that was, but yeah, that is Shar's insignia right there, dead center on her chest. After getting some sleep, we helped Karlach take out these fake paladins. They kinda kicked our asses, but we did end up killing them before they could kill all of us. That brought us to level 3. I got a not incredibly useful ability, and then looted the toll house before setting back out to find the goblin camp. We did our best to avoid the gnolls, I'm not trying to catch rabies, and we eventually reached a fork in the road. On the Nautiloid, I said it would make sense to go left, which is true, but that was when it was 2 doors and we couldn't see behind either of them. Right now, we can't really tell what's on the left, but we can clearly see to the right that Joaquin's rest is there. It's better to take the path that we can actually see. We approached and found the place on fire. I told Will to hop in there, he's the hero after all, and he saved Floric. We told her that we'd save Ravengard, but we'll see if that's the case when we get there. But at this point, I realized something. We are much closer to the Githyanki at the entrance to the mountain pass than we were to the goblins. With Lae'zel being so adamant that her people could help, we headed in that direction. Then though, we watched as they pretty ruthlessly attacked and killed the Flaming Fist, the enforcers of the law in Baldur's Gate. I fuck cops and all, but if I watched some alien people kill a bunch of cops in front of me for no reason, I'd probably hesitate to go anywhere near them. So, to compromise, I had Will and Karlach hide off on the cliff, and I followed Lae'zel down to talk to the Gith. And folks, you'll never believe it, but after Lae'zel's lie to Voss fell flat, we got jumped, and they beat the absolute dog shit out of us. Well, good thing we've got some scrolls to bring us back. I ended up needing Gale's help to distract them with a little illusion action, but we eventually made it work, and we took a big fat nap after that. Lae'zel told me how pissed off she was that she had been discarded by her people, and my faith in the crush being the right solution was pretty seriously shaken. Back to it though, we were stopped outside of the blighted village by Raphael. I wouldn't trust him on my own, but with Karlach and Will on my side, I felt very confident in turning down his help. I did offer some help of my own though to Barkis, who was being bullied by these goblins. I used the tadpole to scare them off and freed my fellow gnome. But alright gang, we're here, the goblin camp. As I approached, I was stopped by a guard. I did well at navigating the conversation peacefully, but when he asked me to rub shit on my face, literal shit, not metaphorical or hyperbolic shit, I decided that I'd rather kick his ass. We did so, and entered the camp proper. That's when we all got Jimmy Neutron brain blasted, and the Absolute showed us a vision of her chosen. We have basically no idea what this means at this point, but we'll kind of figure that out later. After that little episode, I got kind of risky. I saw the thing the goblins were getting their drinks from, and I got the bright idea to poison it. It worked out though, and it killed a few of them, but they got pretty mad at me. Thankfully, Karlach is a terrifying monster, and she told them to just deal with it. Man, she's so cool. We walked into the temple that the goblins have infected, for lack of a better term, and
Oi! Ain't no party in here!
man, I love how hideous the goblins sound. The oi gets me every time. I got lucky with some more rolls. I hit level 4, and for my feat, I pretended that Will taught me how to Eldritch Blast, taking the Spell Sniper feat and using Eldritch Blast as the cantrip. Honestly, I just needed some type of decent ranged attack, and it's cool to think that the others can teach me things. Now, I hope you guys are feeling flexible because it is time to stretch. First of all, there's no way for us to know exactly where Halsin is. But considering I don't see any jail cells with him in them around here, the Warg Pen seems like a reasonable place to check. The stretch comes in though when I'd feel the need to help this caged bear. Bears are strong, bears are scary, and I have absolutely no reason to believe that Halsin is this bear. But I guess you could just say that maybe loving animals and wanting to keep one safe is a good enough reason to break it free. So that's exactly what we did, and when we were done slaughtering goblins together, Halsin revealed himself. Halsin can't heal me himself, but he said that the Moonrise Towers could be a decent place to look for a source of all this nonsense. He also said that he could use some help killing the goblin leaders, but we desperately need some rest before we do that. When Bramble fell asleep that night, he was confronted by his guardian, who wears the face of his dead wife. I don't know, I just wanted to throw some character in there. His not really wife shared that she can help prevent the tadpole from taking over and to not be in too much of a rush to get rid of it. That kind of makes me feel better and makes me feel like I do in fact have time to kill those pesky leaders. We got right down to it, killing Gut and her gaggle of goblin bastards, Minthara, who I didn't spare because why would anyone in their right mind do that, and then we finished things off by killing Dork Ragzlin. In my notes, I wrote, I genuinely cannot believe we pulled that off. And yeah, that was sick. We looted the place, and even though it seems like we just slept, we've been through quite a bit today, so we went to sleep once again. Bramble's dead wife showed up again, and this time she really hammered it in my head that it's okay to take advantage of the tadpole and that it's not gonna hurt me. Not as long as she's around, I guess. So that's good to know. The tieflings were packing up to leave the grove the next day, but I first got Karlach's engine fixed up with a little infernal iron that we found. After that though, we celebrated with the tieflings. And well, look who wants a piece of old Bramble. Look, some of you seem grossed out by Lae'zel. I've seen it in my comments, I have, but I sure as shit am not. And yes, I got Bramble's little gnome dick wet. That was an unpleasant thing to say. Speaking of unpleasant, it's time for us to decide how we will reach Act 2. We can either go through the Underdark or the Mountain Pass. Halsin said that the Mountain Pass will start easier, but it'll reach the Shadow-Cursed lands all the same. The Underdark sounds overall a little safer, but I'm pretty sure most people are scared of the dark, whether or not they admit it, so I think it would feel better to stay above ground as much as possible. Plus, to get to the Underdark, the conventional way, we'd have to fight a ton more goblins. That means we are taking the Mountain Pass, and if we get the chance, we could maybe stop by the Creche and see if they don't kill us on sight. Mountain Pass or Underdark aside, we have to do a little fighting either way. Before we do though, I respect to not be a farmer anymore. I'm not a farmer anymore, I am now a laborer. But it does seem to be a little more effective in combat. That proved true when we kicked Fart Beretha's ass and cleared the way to the pass. As we tried to enter the pass, the game took a second to warn us about how brutal this next part was going to be, but man, Bramble doesn't know what's coming, and he has no reason to stop now. Into the Mountain Pass we go. Lae'zel immediately stopped to say that we need to reach the Creche, and while I wasn't sure at first, she said something that made me feel much better about it.
You don't have to trust them, only to trust me. I have not failed you yet, and I have no intentions of it now. I don't need you to believe me for it to be true.
It's hard not to be convinced by that. She has been my ally the entire time, and other than Voss trying to kill us, she's only really done things to help. So, fuck it, let's go to the Creche. Outside of the monastery, we find the Gith taking some cultists prisoner. They lock the door behind them, but before I followed, I took out the kobolds and the Grimishka. I of course then took a little nappy, and then we entered the Creche that next morning. Lae'zel got inside without much trouble, and when we reached the infirmary, I told her to go first in the brain-melting machine. It tried melting her, and while I was no help in getting her out, the Emperor eventually lost his mind and blew it up, preventing it from killing Lae'zel. The doctor was pissed and stormed off just to show back up and try to murder us. We did fine, but now Lae'zel wants to go find the Inquisitor and tell him of the doctor's treachery. Man, these frog fucks have got one last chance to convince me that they are not all terrible. Lae'zel aside. But they would not be successful, because when we confronted the Kithrak, she demanded we give up the artifact. Obviously, we didn't do that, and we were forced to fight. Now, we did get absolutely destroyed a couple times, but remember, I'm only calling things a wrap if we're genuinely in an unwinnable spot. And with enough luck, I got through this fight somehow. It sucked ass though, and I was completely fed up with the Gith Yankee. Sorry, Lae'zel, be mad at me all you want, we are getting out of here. We ran right past the Death Shepherds, no need to fight them really, and then found Elminster. I sent him to camp, but after that, it was time to enter Act 2. The game made me sleep here, and when it did, we talked to Elminster. I didn't really care about what was going on here, but then it suddenly hit me. Gale is given a mission to use the nuke in his chest to take out the Absolute. We have a win button, a built-in fuck the Absolute and make it go boom button. Surely you see where I'm going with this, right? Well, for now, let's just focus on what's in front of us, the Shadow-Cursed lands. Immediately we ran into a goblin. I killed that bitch, obviously, and then scanned scanned the horizon. And you know what I saw? Well, what do you see? This little dome of light seems like the only reasonable place to go, honestly. I mean, it's kinda bright at least, and in this hellhole, that seems like enough to get me excited. I had to hide from Karnis on the way there, and then stumbled upon the dead tieflings. That's sad. We did eventually reach Last Light though, and Jaheira was suspicious of me right away. Thankfully, Maul came and talked her down, but Karlach fangirling over Jaheira never ceases to be adorable. And valid. That lady is a veritable hero. We spoke to her some more, and she told me all about Ketheric Thorm and how that guy needs to go down. It sounds like to find a solution to this tadpole problem, we're gonna need him out of the way. Before we can even reach him at Moonrise though, we gotta get a little protection from Isabel. But then, like I always do, I forgot all about Marcus. Marcus appeared, threatened to take Isabel, and we stood up for her. Unfortunately, that didn't matter. Isabel got a train ran on her, and Marcus flew off with her lifeless body in his arms. And just like that, a deep darkness fell over the inn. Now, I thought about loading back, but this honestly seems like it would kind of be the most likely course of events, so I tried my best to let things play out. Play out they did, and it went poorly. Not only does every person here die, including 2 traitors who are very useful, but Jaheira herself went down in this battle. We barely escaped with our life, and I didn't even have enough gold to bring everyone back. We got some rest, and then the next day we finished our battle at Last Light. After that was all done, this is what I wrote in my notes. Alright, Jaheira, the legend herself, gave us a mission before she died, saving me. You'd better bet your sweet cock and balls that I'm going to do all I can to get that shit done. The cock and balls part was kind of unnecessary, but the message stands. To get rid of these tadpoles, we are going to need to kill Ketheric. Ketheric is waiting at Moonrise, but in the way of the tower is Karnis and his butt buddies. They're just kind of standing there though, looking the opposite way, and I took that opportunity to use some explosives I'd been saving. Bramble doesn't know shit about Karnis, so attacking him like this might seem kind of crazy, but after seeing him traveling with the goblins, I think we can assume that freaky spider dude is some kind of bad. After that was over, I freed Dolly from the moon lantern. She's kind of crazy, but from what I can tell, she's innocent? That feels like the wrong word. She kind of seems like a serial killer. As we finally reached Moonrise itself, another distraction appeared in the form of Mizora. She tells us that we need to free Zariel's asset, and I even convinced her to let Will out of his pact if we were able to do so. We'll get to that, but for now, it's Moonrise time. The guard outside tells us to go look for Zarel, and I found her in the throne room, I think? This is also the first time we see Ketheric, and his introduction never ceases to give me goosebumps. And you'd better bet your sweet ass if you saw this for the first time ever in real life, you would probably shit your pants. Ketheric fucks off somewhere else after this, and I'm forced to play a game of pretend. Pretend, that is, that I am actually a true soul like they think. Zarel tells me I need to go to the Thorm Mausoleum and help Balthazar find something for Ketheric. That something seems pretty important, and if I manage to steal it, then maybe I can get the edge over him, so to the mausoleum we go. First we needed to rest, and that night Gale was having a rough time. He asked me to sit with him, and him being my new friend, I of course sat with him. During this, Gale told me that he was scared of the mission that had been given to him. The idea of dying, and in such an incredible fashion, would scare anyone. But he made 2 things clear here. 1, that if he were to appease Mystra, he could rest easy, and that 2, he also wants to make sure he dies with purpose. These thoughts had me thinking that maybe it would be best for him to blow his load. But I still wasn't sure yet. I figured I'd know when I got there. Back to the quest at hand, I was stopped outside the mausoleum by Raphael. I convinced him to paint me a very clear picture of the dangers ahead, and he, in fairly uncertain terms, told me to watch out for an orphan. With that, we headed inside, and even though there's not really any reason for Bramble to know what to do here, I don't know, what was I supposed to do, stand around forever? Solving that puzzle opened the path to the gauntlet, and with nowhere else to be, we made our way down. The first real test here is the fight against the Justiciars. They were tougher than I thought they'd be, and that put me a little on edge. At this point, I would normally be a level or 2 higher in an average playthrough, but we skipped so much stuff that I've fallen pretty far behind. Regardless, I went and picked up Shadowheart because, I mean, come on, it would be fucked up to be in the Gauntlet of Shar and not bring our resident Sharan along. Before we can take the gauntlet down, I first wanted to confront Balthazar. We had to fight a bunch of with Justiciars, which is always a fight that bothers me for some reason. Anyway, with them dead, we met Balthazar himself. In regards to Balthazar, in my notes, I wrote the following. Me personally, I don't think I'm keeping up the charade once I meet Balthazar. He's clearly a bad fucker, and I want him dead while he's separated from Ketheric. It's a bold move, but we attacked, and after a pretty long and difficult fight, we somehow managed to kill Balthazar, Flesh, and the little ghoul fucks. Not bad for a farmer. Alright, so now we've got to go through the gauntlet, and brother, this shit gets a little more painful every single time. Most people wouldn't have played this game as much as I have, so this is really only a complaint for freaks like me, but the Gauntlet of Shar is incredibly miserable on subsequent playthroughs of Baldur's Gate 3. But again, that's more my fault really. We got through all the trials, or I guess Shadowheart got through them all, and we even picked up the Spear of Night. We still had a big, red, and scary obstacle to contend with though, Yurgir. Yurgir is really strong, and his small army of Maragon makes things even tougher, so I did my best to get through this without any violence. And you know what? Without cheating or save scumming at all, I managed to talk him into an early grave. Now we've just got to go and confront the Night Song, and so the gang and I descended into the Shadow Realm. We all jumped our way down to the center of this place and found Aelin waiting. Turns out that she is the Night Song, and the relic that Ketheric so badly wanted brought to him. Unfortunately though, because we hadn't brought Shadowheart along for the entire ride of the playthrough thus far, like I usually would, she was very set on killing Aelin. That would be pretty stupid though, to kill her, because clearly Aelin could be a great asset to us, and she's, you know, a fucking person. Shark didn't like us standing in her way though, and she refused to see reason. She attacked us, and Lae'zel, of course, took Shadowheart down for good. A pretty horrible fate, being sent floating into the Shadow Realm for eternity, but hey man, I tried to talk her out of it. We freed Aelin, and she flew off to Moonrise, and when we arrived there ourselves, I was reminded that we were pretty alone in this fight. But we've come much too far now, I've got to keep pressing on. Now, honestly, we died a lot. Like, a lot. And I thought at a certain point that this might just be impossible, but with some assistance from Gale and Withers, we whittled away at Moonrise's forces. When we got to the roof though, things did not get any easier. I tried to have Lae'zel get the drop on Ketheric, but it backfired miserably. Ketheric put her in timeout, and then the fight carried on in pretty awful fashion. Like the fight downstairs, it took plenty of determination and hard work, but we somehow managed to make Ketheric retreat, which it didn't show the cutscene for, he just kind of disappeared, which was funny, and then we took out the remaining enemies. Now, I think right here we need to come back down to earth for just a little bit. Bramble went from being a normal dude, a farmer, to adventurer, not by choice, to now potential hero if he can take down Ketheric and the Absolute. The average person wouldn't have come this far, not nearly, but he's not alone. He's got the help of Lae'zel of Kresh Kalir, Zariel's ultimate weapon, and a former archmage. This might feel like it defeats the purpose of the video, but to me, it makes sense that the average person wouldn't be going through this alone. They'd accept help, they'd have to make it this far. And so, even though things have gone so incredibly off the rails, what else is Bramble supposed to do? Jumping into this freaky flesh pit seems like a nightmare, but it's really his only choice, and again, he's not alone. Once we were down there, I made sure we prioritized finding Zariel's asset. I purposely didn't bring Will along because, frankly, I don't know if we're gonna make it out of this alive, and I want to make sure that Will gets to continue on even if we don't. So we fought the Mind Flayers, freed Zevlor in the process, though we really didn't have to do any of that, and then found that asset waiting down the hall, Mizora herself. She makes a comment about not letting Will out of his pact for 6 months or something annoying, but honestly, he might still need her help when things are said and done here, so that might be a blessing in disguise. With that out of the way though, I descended down into the deepest depths of the I almost said the Italian colony. I descended down into the deepest depths of the Illithid colony and found all 3 of the Absolutes chosen waiting for us. Now, I know how this cutscene ends. I know what happens next, and I know it's not just Ketheric we're gonna have to face, but Bramble can't know that. All he knows is that the Absolute, Ketheric, and the other 2 chosen are all standing here, right in front of us. But honestly, we have no fucking chance of winning a battle here. Ketheric is a monster. He's just too powerful, and even without knowing what comes next and the whole Merkel thing, I think most people might assume at this point that you're gonna have to fight all 3 of the chosen right here and now. So how could any normal dude possibly win that? Well, They wouldn't. They couldn't. All we could do at this point was let Gale fulfill his mission. He wanted to make peace with Mystra, he wanted to die with purpose, and in this situation, it's pretty much either we choose to die with the Absolute or we die with nothing gained. I know this whole quest was about curing Bramble and trying to beat the game as a normal guy, but again, dude, there's just no chance. Not without doing some weird cheese in the game that like a normal human being would not do, you know what I mean? So, Gale blows himself up, taking out Ketheric, Gortash, Orin, the Absolute, and of course, us. This is known in the video game world as a bad ending, an ending that clearly even the developers don't find satisfactory. But is it really? The narrator tells us that the tadpoles are gonna take over their hosts now, and there will be a plague of mind flayers. But think about this. At the end of the game, we see the citizens of Baldur's Gate kick a Lithid ass. They take out several mind flayers, and they do it with pitchforks and shit. They would have a little more time to prepare this time, and that's not to mention that Will is still out there, and more importantly, he still has the artifact, assuming I was able to leave that with him, I guess, which technically I wouldn't, but let's pretend that the Emperor pulls a little teleporting action like he did at the Goblin Camp. Him being out there and with his knowledge of the situation, he might just be able to spell hope for the Sword Coast after all. But we will never know. Bramble was a normal dude, but even though things ended on a somber note, I think he still went out a hero. So can you beat Baldur's Gate 3 as a normal guy? Not really. I mean, shit, maybe you could, but I tried to take it in a direction that made the most sense to me. Maybe you have some different thoughts, and if you do, leave a comment. Tell me how you think things should have gone. And again, also I'd appreciate if you left a like. I think the algorithm really favors videos with lots of likes, so that would help out. But that's it for me, gang. Thank you all so much for watching. I've still got some more Baldur's Gate 3 ideas, but if you have any, including with mods and stuff, let me know. Thank you again, and I hope to see you guys next time. GG's, everybody.